Had a chance to travel to Guatemala City and visit some of the slums there, and I was just really blown away by the conditions that people faced in terms of their water supply and sanitation. Basically, there's raw sewage flowing through the streets, hundreds of thousands of people living in these conditions, and taking their water from these contaminated barrels that were there. And I just remember seeing one girl there, a small girl, walking to collect water, and basically drinking out of this barrel that you wouldn't even have your animals drink this type of water here, and it just really struck me, and I just wanted to find a way to respond to that.
Since ancient times, water has been the most important life-sustaining resource for any society. The Nabateans were masters of water management and devised an ingenious system of dams, canals, and aqueducts that created an artificial oasis in the midst of the eastern Negev. Today, the world's oldest and most prosperous cities are those that were built around sources of water. Water continues to serve civilizations as a means of transportation, sanitation, and life. What many people do not realize, however, is that our society today is experiencing a water crisis. Poor sanitation and distribution, along with lack of awareness, have contributed to this growing problem. Additionally, overuse of water for irrigation, little implementation of green water systems, and erosion problems have led to a crisis that is making water a scarce natural resource.
This day is getting older, in fading light, it's beautiful. This wind is blowing colder, and too soon I'll feel its pull. Still I took all my chances, earned myself an even score, try to learn my lessons well. And I don't have the answers for those questions anymore, only love can be.
Water Partners is a U.S.-based non-profit organization devoted to combating this water crisis and committed exclusively to providing safe drinking water and sanitation to people in developing countries. By forging partnerships with carefully screened partner organizations and offering innovative financial methods, Water Partners empowers local communities to develop and sustain solutions to their own water needs.
Being kind of an engineering student, I didn't want to just kind of come back and do something. I wanted to try to figure out, what's the best way to impact this problem. And I went to work in this field. I moved to New York and took a job there in international development, and quickly learned that not only is this a massive problem, killing millions of people every year, but when we were trying to solve it, the efforts were not being as effective as they could have been. I mean, the high project failure rates, about 50% of water projects were failing at that time, back in the 80s. So I was looking for ways to not just do something, but to really do the best thing, to really kind of optimize this and figure out why do projects fail, how can we approach them differently, how can we make sure that when we go to help a village in Tanzania or Ethiopia or Honduras, how can we make sure that the project we're going to help them with is going to be there 5 years, 10 years down the road.
In villages in Honduras, Water Partners work with the communities to construct a 3.9-mile pipe, allowing the villagers to have access to fresh, potable water directly outside their homes. For the project, families spent several hours every day collecting water. In conjunction with the pipe project, Water Partners implemented a school-based program focused on teaching the children in Honduras about protecting the environment and sustaining a manageable watershed in order to ensure a long-term success.
What I think has the greatest potential for us to reach literally hundreds of millions of people with safe water is recognizing that the people that we help really are the source of the solution. And I mean that not just in terms of them pitching in and picking up a shovel to help build a project, but financial participation. And what we're doing is bringing microfinance to people living in poverty who need safe water for the first time, so that they can participate financially in solving the problem, and then making loans to them instead of just doing straight charity. Right. And then those loans then in turn can be repaid and help even more people. So getting the leverage that we need to solve the problem, recognizing that it's not just charity from the top down, but really financial innovation from the bottom up. And I think if we can meet the world's poor halfway, then we're going to serve, hundreds of millions of people with safe water and sanitation.
Erosion and land degradation are additional side effects of the water crisis. When it rains, water should either evaporate or soak into the ground and feed into streams, creating a natural filtration system for the environment. However, with modern construction and infrastructure, our society has altered water's natural tendencies. Brush Creek in Kansas City is an example of this destructive pattern. Due to erosion and flooding problems, Brush Creek is transformed from a stream that used to be only a few feet deep and a few feet wide to a much larger creek, serving only to destroy the environment around it.
I tend to spend a lot of time out in the rain, playing when it rains, and watching how water moves through the landscape. And what I'm most interested in is the urban landscape like Kansas City here, and what happens to stormwater as it moves through the landscape and how it affects people's lives and the community. And what we're finding is when we build cities, we put up buildings and roads and parking lots, we dramatically change how water moves through the natural landscape. In a natural forest or a prairie, most of the rain that falls on it soaks into the ground or evaporates. But when we tear up fields and forests and put up roads and parking lots and buildings, a lot more water runs off the landscape instead of soaking into the ground where it belongs. And that causes a whole host of problems in our cities. As you see behind us here, we have this creek. This creek used to be just a few feet wide and a few feet deep, and now you can see it's blowing out, the banks are collapsing, trees are getting undermined.
Brush Creek has eroded and expanded, causing damage to the environment around it. Trees have collapsed because of ruined land and soil, and flooding now occurs during heavy rainstorms.
This right here is an example of the water pollution problems we talk about. When it rains, our sewers overflow into our streams. And now here alongside our streams in the urban areas, we have signs warning people to stay out of the water for 3 days after it rains because of the pollution in the water. So just another indication of how we have to change how we manage stormwater in our urban areas here. And the other thing you'll see is all the trash in the stream here that's washed in from our parking lots and roads, and trash bags up high in the stream. You get an idea where the trash is, how high the water gets up in the stream. So not only do we have flooding problems, we have trash problems in our stream, and pollution problems that can lead to health risks. Again, it's all a matter of how we deal with water in the environment, and we need to start considering it a valuable resource rather than a problem and something we just need to flush away quickly.
Similar problems of erosion and land degradation are occurring all over the world. In Qatar, overuse of groundwater for agriculture is resulting in soil salinization and causing damage to the land. Because of this overexploitation, many springs in the Arabian Peninsula are disappearing. Loss of these natural oases has harmed many species of rare reptiles, birds, and mammals that depend on the springs for survival.
In general, what happens is as the groundwater is used up, we have what's called saltwater intrusion. So the ocean water comes in and starts to contaminate the remaining groundwater, as well as the water table drops. Okay, as we use more groundwater, natural areas here, natural low-lying areas, which would have had a much higher water content, like the Sabkha areas, become increasingly dry. So we're seeing these areas that at one time, which would have been much more naturally wet from groundwater supplies, are becoming much more dry. So we're seeing land degradation in that respect.
Water is our number one key to survival, and with overuse, poor sanitation and distribution, and land degradation, we are slowly diminishing the chances of our continued existence. If, however, we are able to actively support the effort to solve the water crisis, we can provide safe, accessible water to societies in the developing world, protect streams and rivers from erosion, and employ new green technology in everyday life. Solving the water crisis is a major step toward a healthier earth and an economically, socially, and physically healthier world community. Whether it is giving $25 to Water Partners to save a life, persuading your city representatives to take initiative in the fight against the water crisis, or installing green water systems in your own home, everyone can help stop this crisis in its tracks.
To see such incredible loss of life and waste of human potential, knowing that we're not looking for a miracle cure, that we're not waiting on the medical breakthrough or the magic vaccine. We know how to do this right now. And so that's the most basic element of this. Really, for about $25, you can bring safe water to someone for life.